say how to shut down. Oh no, you better.
I'm just texting you.
Oh,
hi baby, feel
there
better.
you go.
I miss you.
Hey, how's everybody doing? You having a great time? That's what I like to hear. I just am so excited to have all of you here tonight. Obviously, you took a break, so welcome back. It's just an honor to see everybody here. Ever since I can remember, my dad always had a mission to heal the children of the world. And he was very adamant about leading this mission, but he knew he couldn't do it alone. He recognized the importance of collaboration within the community and the need for us as individuals to take a look at the man or woman in the mirror and make that change. These principles he instilled in me of inspiration, community, love, and kindness are foundational to our organization and the organizations we work with. At the Heal Los Angeles Foundation, we believe in building long-term relationships that create meaningful impact within deserving communities.
Yeah, I think we understand. Okay. Play that, but cut it when I can get it.
In Barbie land, everything makes sense. But here in the real world, I'm always like, what is that? What is that? Thankfully, with the Google app, I can search it with lens. Oh, a chihuahua. What up? Why give your family just any eggs when they can enjoy the best? Eggland Fest. The only eggs with more fresh and delicious taste. Plus,
Today, we're actually going to be showing you a medley of some of the greatest hits from one of the biggest pop stars of all
Crank it,
time.
make it a little louder.
okay.
A little louder. Oh, is there a problem?
What is his name? Michael Jackson? Yeah! Michael Jackson! Michael Jackson! Yes! I should have known it's Michael Jackson. Yeah, he's definitely one of the greatest people there is. I love Michael Jackson. Ooh, the dance moves are so great. I miss Michael Jackson. Beat it. How are you What are you talking about? Yes. This is great. People need to make music like this now. More! This is one of his most popular music. I really like this song.
Really? I used to be very scared of this.
We did this song for my Halloween festival at school.
really cool that people are still listening to it and still dancing to it.
Oh, is this Captain Leo? I saw that at Disneyland once.
I haven't heard this song yet. Oh, I've actually never heard this one.
What is happening?
Yeah, I have no idea what this song is. It looks like it's space.
That was part of Captain EO that used to be at Disneyland.
Yeah. Michael Jackson not doing a Disneyland?
Jumping over the turnstiles. I think that's allowed. Oh my god, this brings back so many memories. I love his dance moves. It's great.
That one looks like it's part of the mafia.
All the music videos are so interesting.
Oh my gosh, that looks cool.
A smooth girl. I'm gonna go this for Halloween and stuff. There's so much going on.
What's the big dance? That was cool. That's actually pretty good. I was pretty happy.
His hair looks angelic. Oh, it's on the Statue of Liberty. Oh yeah, this was a good recitation.
I like this video especially because it's like all over the world. It's literally that like a really cheesy boy band that do like One Direction.
They're all great, they're all catchy, and they all have a really great meaning.
Yeah.
Hey, if you want
Like the Egyptian video.
Facebook Live on my drive back today, some of us are joined. So if you jump in or maybe we're going to be busy with Nathan or something.
I got you. I can do that. We'll figure it out.
All right, that's my good. Thank you.
It's weird. They put so much stuff over it. His face just gets weirder and weirder. Like the nose just gets. He looks like a dog. Oh, please. Is that him? How is that him? He's so pale. This is like one of these songs where you take
Nice to
your
meet you.
flashlight out and like.
That's so angelic.
King Horseback for such a long time.
I have to say that's better than Beyonce, and that I can't believe I'm saying that. I like his music a lot. He just dance along. When he died at the time, I didn't know who he was, but like then my mom told me to start listening to him, and I did, and I was like,
I loved all of it. It was so good. I wish he was still alive today, but that sucks that he died. But at least we still have music of him.
Let's give the galaxy one more show.
Okay.
Now streaming. Hello, Dominique.
they're just making up stuff that he's saying, right?
Going to the game.
Just start playing from Enjoy Yourself.
This is going to be.
If you get blocked, it's fine.
Do I have time to tell about the story?
Yeah, absolutely.
You want me to do it now or do you want
Yeah, go ahead. Well, you want to play it for them and we'll go in the back and talk? Like, just play the music for the people.
Well,
We'll
no,
go
I
talk.
want to do it for these people.
Oh. You want to grab a microphone? Okay. All right, hang on. Big Al. Big Al's got a couple stories for those on Facebook. We had him on Zoom this morning, which was a little crazy, but that didn't last for long. We'll have a sit down with our buddy. There's nothing I enjoy more. Facebook, we welcome Big Al Scanlan to the room.
Testing.
No?
Okay, while everybody's eating, is anybody here interested in maybe a couple of Neverland stories?
Yes!
Anybody? Can you hear me? Oh. Anybody want to hear a couple of Neverland stories? All right. Okay. While I was walking around earlier, I had a couple of people. Sorry, Ron is ordering me.
No, it's just so you're in front of your thing. There you
I
go.
would show you this. I would show you the video for this, but I will cry.
So, let's see it.
Huh? I'll arm wrestle you for me.
You won.
Okay, so the Christmas story. I have a Christmas story. I know it's a long ways from Christmas, but it seems to be one of the fans' favorites. So one year, I got a call from MJJ Productions, and they said, if anybody, we could always count on being busy at Christmas. Michael would come home, family, friends. But this particular year, I think he was actually working on the history album, or CD, or whatever you call it nowadays. And anyway, the call from MJJ Productions was, if anybody on your crew wants to take some vacation time, we're not going to be busy at Christmas. So I asked around, and I only had one person that wanted to take some vacation. And so then about a week later, when this guy's in the air flying to Mexico, who happened to be the only other person on the ranch besides me that could operate the steam train. The steam train is not a simple turn the key and put it in gear. It's a pretty complicated and dangerous piece of equipment, so only two of us were trained on it. But anyway, so I get another call from MJJ Productions saying there's been a change of plans, which that never happens in the Michael Jackson film. Anyway, and following that was, this is going to be the biggest Christmas we've ever had. So I went home and packed a bag, knowing that I was not going to leave the ranch for an undetermined amount of time. So Michael shows up, his guests show up, everything's going great. I'm working long hours, but I don't have to drive 40 minutes home and 40 minutes back each day. I just drive down to the ranch house, which was an old ranch hand's house in the zoo, and it was all furnished. We didn't use it really, but it was my home for that for the next few weeks. And so anyway, things going great. You know, I get up in the morning. I don't even have to get dressed other than, my sweats, obviously I had to get dressed. But so, and I go down and I fire up the train because it's early. I know Michael's not going to come out, and nobody's going to come out at that time of the day. Anyway, so about a week into this event, it's Christmas Eve, so maybe it was 2 weeks. Christmas Eve, I remember this very fondly, I guess I could say. Christmas Eve, 11:30 at night. I'd been up since 7 o'clock that morning operating the steam train. I shut it off. I got back to the ranch house about 11, took a shower. I think I even had a cold Corona in my hand watching TV. And the phone rings. Now, I think the only people that know I'm on property is the fire department and security. And then my next thought is I have to get dressed again. There was a game in the arcade called R360. It was a flight simulator. And it required somebody with a key, meaning me, to be there if anybody was riding it, because it does complete barrel rolls, and if somebody's arm falls out, a sensor will shut the machine off, and the operator has to be there with a key to restart it. So I'm thinking I got to get dressed. I can't go down there in my sweats because Michael's here. I always wore a suit whenever Michael was home. And so I answered the phone with a little bit of an attitude. I said, "What?" Thinking I was going to be talking to a security guard. So you already know where I'm going with this, I'm sure. Lucky for me, I've been there enough time, enough years that I had a very good relationship with Michael. Although when I realized it was him, I felt like I probably shouldn't have answered with that attitude. But he was focused on what he was focused on, and he completely ignored my attitude. And he was like a little kid on Christmas, or Christmas Eve, very excited in his voice, and he goes, "Big Al, can you get a Santa Claus suit for tomorrow morning?" I looked at the phone, and I'm thinking of all the people that have been in charge of Michael for all those years, they didn't prepare him for this news I was going to give him. I said, not even Michael Jackson can get a Santa Claus suit at 11:30 at night on Christmas Eve. And again, when I said that, I thought that might not have been it, but he laughed. He goes, "Okay, thanks," and that was it. And the rest of the next 3 weeks, everything went great. Michael left, went back to, I think, New York. I think he was working in New York at that time on the History album. And about a month later, Evie calls me, she was at that time in charge of MJJ Productions. And Evie calls me, and which we didn't usually, we got security clearances and information via fax or whatever, but we usually didn't get phone calls unless it was something really big. So I thought it was, I didn't know what to think. But anyway, she calls me, and I'm not thinking about Christmas Eve and my phone call with Michael. She starts asking me, what's your pant size? What's your inseam? What's your foot size? What's your glove size? What's your hat size? I'm like, I said, Evie, I said, I have a couple of suits and a tuxedo, thinking that maybe I was going to go somewhere with Michael, which I didn't usually go anywhere but the ranch. So she laughs and she goes, no. She says, Michael Bush is making you a Santa Claus suit. Oh my God. So immediately I'm thinking, well, I'm pretty excited because Michael Bush, we all know who Michael Bush is. He's making me a Santa Claus suit, and I'm excited because someday I must be going to play Santa Claus for Mr. Jackson. So I was pretty excited about this phone call. And so now he delivers, it was months later anyway, he delivers the Santa Claus suit. And it wasn't until just a couple of years ago at the birthday celebration, I heard a little bit more about the story. I'm telling the story to some fans in the back of the Mandalay Bay Theater, and Michael Bush was standing there with me, and he says, "Oh, I didn't tell you this. I didn't tell you the rest of the story." He goes, "I got a phone call from Michael," and he said, at that time, Michael Bush and I'd never met. I mean, he hadn't been to the ranch. Well, I don't know if he'd been to the ranch or not, but him and I had never met. So he gets, there's a suit right there. So he gets a phone call from Michael, and Michael says, Bush, I want you to make a Santa Claus suit for Big Al. And he goes, Bush is telling the story. He says, it was kind of funny because I'd never met you, so I had to ask. I said, how big is Big Al? And he goes, it was funny because there was complete silence out there on the other end of the phone for about 10 seconds. And then he hears Michael laughing and he goes, he's really big. So anyway, that's how I wound up with the Santa Claus suit. And I did get to use it several times for Mr. Jackson and his kids and his family. And one time I was getting the steam train ready, which is there's a lot to it. And I was I tried to go take a shower and change clothes afterwards because there's a lot to getting the steam train ready. And he called up to the train depot where I was at, and he had a bunch of people, including some media. Geraldo was there, and there was some group, I can't remember what it was, but he said, hey, can you wear your Santa Claus suit? But anyway, so there's my Santa Claus story. Now another story that I get asked a lot is, a question I get asked a lot is, what's your favorite moment? Well, that's impossible. I'm writing a book trying to hope I can cover they're all my favorite moments, but I guess if I had to really pick, I really liked it when I could do something that made Michael laugh. And actually the picture that just went by, I'm assuming that everybody here must be familiar with Michael's videos. So, Speed Demon, everybody knows Speed Demon? Okay. And I can go back to that picture because it'll help paint the picture of what happened here. So, Dan, the mechanic, Dan's he's about this tall, he's about 90 pounds, he's the mechanic. Him and I are in the park, and the security calls and says, Mr. Jackson's coming down, he wants a couple of scooters. So we had the scooters way back at the other end of the ranch in the train barn. And so we hop in my golf cart, we go to the back, Dan gets a scooter and I get a scooter. Now these scooters, we're talking like little mopeds. So if you can, since I'm standing in front of you, maybe you can envision what that moped looked like under me. You could barely see it, and it was struggling, I'm sure, to get back up to the amusement park. So Dan and I are driving from the back into the ranch up to the amusement park, and Michael's standing out in front, and I can see, I got to be still 500 feet away, and I can tell that he is laughing. He's hysterically laughing, and I know that he's laughing. He's seeing me on the scooter, and I'm sure smoke was coming out of the back of it. Anyway, he's laughing and laughing and laughing, and this video, Speed Demon, popped into my head. I drove right up within about 1 inch of his toe and slammed on the brakes. And I said, "Hey, mister, want to autograph my belly?" I thought he was going to die. He was laughing so hard, he almost had to lay down. He couldn't breathe. So anyway, that's one of my fun stories. I got to make Michael laugh. So does anybody have anything about Neverland they want to hear? Any questions about Neverland? No. Yeah.
Your experience with the front gate.
The front gate.
You have any experience with the front gate? Anything? Entrance effect?
No.
Like anybody jumping over?
Oh well, the ranch is 2,700 acres, and we didn't have like an 8-foot security fence, right? It was just split rail fence. Anybody could step over it, so we had trespassers on fairly regularly. And we had in the prime days of Neverland, we probably had 115 employees, if you can imagine somebody's house with 150 employees. But we had a zoo, we had an amusement park. You know, we had 2,700 acres. We had all the, like, in these pictures, you can see most of our employees were made up in different departments that took care of the grounds, the trees, the flowers, the yards. And I'd say at least half of the employees, if not more, have radios, and everybody knew everybody. So trespassers didn't last very long. They got found out pretty quick, and then we would handcuff them, take them to the front gate, call the sheriff's office, get a restraining order, and after that. So actually, that picture was taken right when Bush was telling me the rest of the story. So let's see if there's any picture here that strikes up a quick story. So I know we have other videos to watch, but I thought as long as I had a captive audience, but if I tease you a little bit, maybe if I ever get done with this book, you'll buy a copy. Oh, the theater. If I tell that story, I might cry too. That was another one of my favorite moments. See, I'm already getting teary-eyed just thinking about it. When people ask about my favorite moments, he'd been in New York working on the history album, so he'd been gone for quite a while. And he came back, and we didn't have guests yet, but I was there because he was there, so just in case. And I see him go in the movie theater. Well, I knew that because I listened to we have two-way radios, and the projectionist hadn't showed up yet. I don't think he was actually scheduled till the next day. But so I went over to the movie theater both to greet Michael, because I hadn't seen him in 2 or 3 months, and to let him know that we didn't have a projectionist yet. And right as I walked up to the front door of the theater, which was that picture we just saw a minute ago, I'm getting ready to go in, and he comes out. And we're standing right there in that door, and he starts talking. And history has not been released yet. And he starts telling me about Earth Song. And he's so excited. I can't really describe how excited. I mean, to hear his voice and look in his eyes, I'm standing like right here. And he's telling me, Big Al, just going on and on and on. And of course, I have no clue. He's been listening to it for months at a time, so he knows what he's talking. I don't have a clue what he's talking about. I'm feeling bad, but it was so exciting. I mean, his excitement was getting me excited because he was so into this song. I mean, this song meant so much to him, and he's telling about the message he's trying to send, and the video idea he has for the video. They haven't done a video for it yet, I don't believe. But anyway, that was. To me, when I look back at my time there, that was a big moment for me because he was so excited, and I'm just one of his employees, but he wanted to share that with me, so that was one of my big moments. Okay, one more, the bumper cars. I guess I could probably tell a story for every picture. So I just been working there only maybe a month or so, and the first couple of weeks, he wasn't even there. And then, anyway, the first time I'm running the bumper cars for Michael and his guests. Now, I don't have any, well, I don't know if there's pictures of the inside of the bumper cars. This was a very unique bumper cars. We had a lot of custom special effects. It was a 100-foot floor, or 90-foot floor, and it had a sidewall all around this building, and we had black lights and strobe lights and fog machines, and Brad Sundberg put a huge sound system in it. I mean, it was the craziest bumper cars you can imagine. And we pushed the car. There was 12 cars up against this wall and 12 cars against this wall. Because sometimes you might only have 4 or 5 people, so we wanted to keep the cars out of the way of the other people that were riding the ride, unless it was a full load. So there's a timer. You push the button, it starts the ride, and it runs for like 2 minutes. And he'd say, again, one more time. So this went on for like 45 minutes. They rode the bumper cars for 45 minutes, and the music's blaring. And at one point, as he's riding by, he's yelling at me something, and I don't know what he's saying. And then one of the kids is trying to help me understand because he's looking at me like I'm an idiot. He goes, PYT. Well, you're going to laugh at this? I had no idea what PYT meant. The fans always say, when did you become a Michael Jackson fan? I said, after I started working for him and found out what he was really like. I always listened to his music, but I grew up in the 60s and I was listening to Jimi Hendrix and the Doors and that kind of stuff. But anyway, yeah, Pink Floyd, yeah, Frank Zappa, there we go. Anyway, where was I? So anyway, PYT, and finally Michael goes by and he slows down and he goes, pretty young thing, it's a song on the disc. So I look at the disc and I go, oh. Anyway, so after 45 minutes of riding the ride, he finally says, okay, that's enough, they all get out, and he starts pushing the car back against the wall. And I'm thinking, well, that's my job. And I don't need to do it right now because we're going to go ride another ride, or I assume. And so I told him, I said, no, Michael, I'll get that, don't worry, I'll get that. He goes, no, we want to dance. I go, what? So all the guests and I were all pushing the cars back. There was only like 6 or 8 people, I think. But anyway, so then, because it had mirror balls and fog machines on it, was kind of like a disco. So then, he tells me what music to play, and I'm playing this music, and they're using the bumper car floor as a dance floor because it's a smooth metal floor, and they danced for like 45 minutes. And on the way home from where I lived about 40 minutes away, and on the way home that night, again, I'd only been working there about a month. On the way home, I'm like, I can't believe this. I just had my own personal Michael Jackson dance contest with Michael Jackson himself right there in front of me. I was. So anyway, I got a million stories like that, but anyway. Keep going. Let me see if that was a Thriller 40. Oh wow. So did anybody? Ron took the video, I think.
Yes.
You can't tell the story. Oh, there we go. There's a funny Lisa Marie story there. I can't tell that one.
Oh. No, don't tell that one.
I'll give you some cake.
Oh, that picture right there, that's the train depot. So that glass cabinet, whenever we had VIP guests or Michael's home, we had Sylvain Bakery was like world famous. They made some of the craziest stuff. And we would fill that thing up with stuff from Sylvain Bakery, fancy caramel apples and brownies this thick. And, I mean, it was, but anyway, the first time that Catherine, Michael's mother, was there, and we had the steam train on property, which the steam train was named the Catherine. And the one thing I wish I could have taken a picture of before I left, there was a plaque, because I sat there and looked at this picture a lot when I was at the train waiting for the guests to come up. It was a beautiful picture of Catherine when she was younger, and it had this thing that Michael wrote about the love and attention that went into building this locomotive, and compared that to how her raising her kids, and it was a beautiful little paragraph that Michael put on there. And but anyway, so Catherine and Reby happened to be at the ranch, and I get a call from security that they want to go for a train ride. So I'm super excited. I get to take Catherine for her very first ride on the train named after her. So I walk in the train depot to let them know that I went and started the train to make sure the steam was up. And I went in, and they were both standing like this in front of that glass cabinet looking at all this stuff. And they both looked at me, and Catherine said, how can you work in here with all this stuff? And again, this was like, I guess I should have been a stand-up comedian, because it came to me instantly. I just looked there, I said, well, when I started working here, I was your son's size. And I know both of them had a look on their face like, yeah, you never read my son's side. That one, that Peter Pan thing, that was actually looking in Michael's office. Some of these pictures aren't so great. I got most of them off the internet.
Big Al, your fans in Europe want to hear the water balloon.
Well, yeah, that was, I'd only been there. This was my very first. I don't really know if I would call it a meeting with Michael, but the first time I was working for him full time at the ranch, and he was on property. It's a fairly warm day, and in front of the towards the front part of the amusement park, we had a kiosk that had a snow cone machine and an ice grinder and, you know, the different flavors, and we had over there, we had a popcorn thing. Anyway, security let us know that the guests were heading to the park, and it was kind of a hot day. So I went over to grind up some more ice because it melted fairly fast. And right behind me, there's about a 4-foot garden area with just ground cover and some flowers. And then right on the other side of it was cement and the railroad tracks. And I could hear a golf cart coming down because the cement in front of the amusement park was stamped to make it look like antique brick. And anyway, I could hear the golf cart coming down, and I just keep going, doing what I'm doing, grinding ice. And they stop right behind me, and Michael says, "Sure is a hot day," and I'm wearing a black suit, and it is. It's about 90-something degrees out. So yeah, I'm thinking, yeah, it is a hot day. He goes, "Sure is a hot day today, isn't it?" And I just glanced over and I said, "Yeah, it sure is." And I went back to grinding ice because I didn't want to, you know, I wanted to keep doing what I was doing. And all of a sudden, wham, a water balloon hits me right in the middle of the back. And Michael's voice, he doesn't even need a sound system. That guy's voice, he can, and he gives out one of those hee-hee things and laughs, and as the golf cart takes off, he goes, "It wasn't me!" So I went ahead and finished grinding ice, and I realized at that moment, I said, I think this was going to be a fun, again, I'd only been there 2 weeks. I said, I think this is going to be a fun place to work. And then again, that night on the way home, I always think about things on the way home from work. I said, I don't even think my own family's going to believe that when I go home and tell them I got in a water balloon fight with Michael Jackson today. That's not too many people on the planet can say that. But anyway, yeah, he loved water balloon fights. Oh, and you know, actually, the other guys in the park, I said, you know, I really got the feeling that Michael was a big kid, and we all know that's true. And I said, I think he wants other people to have water balloon fights with. And the guys go, oh, no, we're employees, we don't get. I went out and I bought super soakers and I hid them in the bushes. And the next time they came down there, I got them back, and I thought, well, I'm either going to have to go find another job, or he's going to like it. And he absolutely loved it. It was like, oh, more big kids to play with. So.
Can I add something?
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I've not been knowing about the water gun thing.
Yeah.
It was you that caused a big water gun fight in front of the fence. And they kept saying Michael liked super soaker.
Uh-huh.
So it was you. We had a big fight. I still have a couple of them that everybody signed. We had a very big fight in front of the gate.
I'll accept that responsibility. Proudly.
Matter of fact, when I see you again, trust. He
Well, now I have to carry a super soaker.
No, for real. You actually caused a fight. Everybody, it got out. What happened?
You did it, sir.
It got out, and they brought guns like 7 years. Look, now we know where it's coming from.
Hey everybody, the Big Al's responsible for the popcorn, for the VIP badges, for the lanyards, and all that stuff. So shout out to Big Al.
Yeah, make sure you get a lanyard. Take some. If you got somebody at home, I had 300 of them made. So speaking of lanyards, there I took some friends of mine. We went over the Jumbotron crew. Said the Jumbotron crew was into the same kind of music I'm into. They're all, you know, my age and listen to my kind of music. But when we set the Jumbotron up at the ranch, I was going to be in the middle of the amusement park, so I had to learn how to take care of it. And so we're setting it up, and they're teaching me how to take care of it and whatnot. And we started talking about, I was asking them questions about being on tour with Michael. And one of the things they said is, and I always try to pass this on if I'm ever at a fair where I'm backstage at they said that Michael was the greatest guy to work for. He always made sure that everybody in the crew, no matter what, if they were the stage guys that were there before he got there and didn't come back, he made sure everybody knew that he appreciated how much hard work they did. So, but anyway, the Jumbotron guy said, if you ever get it, whether you like Michael's music or not, if you get a chance to see him perform live, you need to go and see it just from a production standpoint. So it became available. I mean, he was going to do Aloha Stadium in Hawaii. Hey, there's a picture of me. Believe it or not, that was me a long time ago. That's the only picture I think I have of me and Michael together. So there's my son right there, and that's me back from the Santa Claus suit. So anyway, where was that? What was I talking about?
Hawaii.
Oh, Hawaii. So I said, okay, I called some friends of mine that live in Las Vegas, and his parents live over there, so they are always looking for an excuse to go. And so I called Evie about getting tickets. I said, Evie, I never ask anybody for anything free. I said, I don't care what I have to pay for tickets. I just want to make sure I get good seats. She goes, don't worry. How many people are going? I said, 6. No problem. So now I did 2 shows there in Hawaii. So I went down to get my tickets the first night, even though the show I was going to was the second night. And I went to the hotel where Michael was staying, and I had to go see a guy from AEG. I know we don't like to talk about that. But anyway, I had to go see this guy for tickets. And your name's not on the list. I'm thinking, man, I flew all these people over here from to Hawaii, and I don't have tickets. So I called Evie. And of course, working, being the number one person for Michael Jackson, when you hang up the phone with somebody that you got a task completed, I'm sure that she expects it to be done. So when I told her I didn't have any tickets, she goes, what? And then I told her, I said, she goes, well, the show's not ready to start. And I said, well, I'm not going until tomorrow. And then she calmed down. She goes, oh, you can't get your tickets till tomorrow. You can't get it, because it turned out, I didn't know at the time, but these are VIP tickets. We were actually on the VIP deck in front of the soundboard, whiteboard, with actually some of the family was there. I think 3 T's were there, and I think Catherine was there. But anyway, so we went out there, and that lanyard you saw earlier, Benny Collins, who was the production manager, he made me a really nice laminated badge and did all that. And I saw the show, and I was blown away. I really was. I mean, it was perfection. I mean, it was really good. And one of the things I noticed, and a friend of mine who I didn't even know was there, but they're not Michael Jackson fans. It's actually a guy that owns a carnival that I rented rides from. Michael liked to have extra rides at Christmas time because he was home. He had a lot of family and friends. And he was there, and he goes, I want you to tell the Jumbotron guys, I noticed something that I guarantee you would not happen on any other tour. And he was a little bit familiar with the Jumbotron because he'd been to the ranch, and I explained to him, everything I learned about it. The Jumbotron is made up of these basically 1 foot by 1 foot squares, and they weigh about 60 pounds. This was way before LEDs, so there was a lot more to this Jumbotron than the LED screens you see today. Anyway, he goes, I noticed that during one of the songs, one of those squares went out, and then Michael did he talked a little bit, and I think he did a slow song or whatever, and the Jumbotrons weren't on. And he goes, then the next song, when the Jumbotron came on, that thing was fixed. And he knew, because I told him, I said, I had an extendable work platform at the ranch, so I didn't have to do this. But on tour, to fix it on tour during the song, you have to have a guy rappel down in front, and you have to have a guy in the back unplugging all the cords. There's 2 computer cords and an AC cord and 4 bolts you have to undo. So normally you wouldn't do that you just fix it for the next show. But Michael's guys, they fixed it right there now. So and then the next time I saw Michael, I told him, because I mean, you know how big the stage is, and he works it. I mean, it's like playing racquetball for 2 hours up there. I can't imagine, the energy that it takes to do that. And I told him, I said, I had no idea you worked so hard to keep us all employed. He thought that was pretty funny. Because it is, I mean, well, you guys have seen, plenty of concerts, I'm sure, so, I actually was the guy that did that. When we had events, I put the name of the event and the schedule up there. Matt should recognize that picture we just saw. That was Brad Buxer, Michael Prince, and Brad Sundberg. I don't know if you saw it, but there was a picture of flashed up there. That's Vegas last year or the year before. These are all the ranch. It was a beautiful piece of property. Michael named that mountain back there. His property went about a third of the way up that mountain, but he named it the Catherine. So. That's the guest units there, looking from the house that way. That's looking out the back. Ron's favorite picture of it. Oh, Sky Gazebo. If we didn't have any guests on property, that's where I ate lunch, because it was way up on top of this mountain, and you could see the entire valley. It was so peaceful and quiet up there. Or the Sky Gazebo. I have a Macaulay Culkin story. I'm sure he'd laugh if I told him. Him and I became pretty good friends. So Mac and his family are at the ranch. And there's Ron's tree.
Oh, boy.
Hidden amongst all those trees where the main house was, that's the front gate. So anyway, Mac and his family are at the ranch. And some movie guy, this guy was the guy that did, it was either Getting Even with Dad or Richie Rich, I don't remember. But he flew up in a helicopter and they had dinner up at the Sky Gazebo. I'm in the arcade, Mac and, I guess it was his brother, two brothers and a sister, anyway. I was in the arcade, because that's where all the kids were, and they wanted to ride the R360. And I get a call on the radio. Security wants to know if Mac's there. I go, yeah. And they said he needs to go to the Sky Gazebo because they're going to have dinner, and there's movie producers there, and I guess it's kind of a business dinner or whatever. I don't know what he's going to do, but I guess because he's the $1 million child star, he's got to be there for the meeting. So I go over to Mac and I say, they want you to go up and head up to the Sky Gazebo for dinner. He goes, tell them I'm not hungry. So I called back to security and I said, he said he'll skip dinner. And I didn't know that it was an important business meeting. I'm just relaying the message between two people. And so then it comes back on the radio and it's his dad. And he says, take the radio and put it next to his ear so whatever there. And he yelled in, get your ass up here. So he gave it the Home Alone look, And he goes, so they all got in the golf cart and they headed up there. So the housekeepers call, sometimes when they have dinner up at the Sky Gazebo, the fire department and I will go up there because we're not doing anything. We'll go up there and help the housekeepers clean up afterwards. So we go up there and we're standing back quite a ways from where the dinner is, and we help carry some dirty dishes and stuff. Now everybody's sitting around this big table. I guess they're talking business, I don't know. And they had some really nice big chairs with these arms on the side, and Mac's sitting there, and he's sitting way back in the chair, and he's got his leg up over the arm like this, and he keeps trying to leave, and his dad tells him to keep sitting there. And all of a sudden, Mac rips a big old fart. And his dad looks at it and goes, okay, you can leave now. And he walks by me and the fire department guys and he goes, it worked! Like it was all fun. So there you go, you got a Macaulay Culkin story. He was really a good kid, and I hadn't seen him for quite a few years, and he came back now, he's like grown up a little bit. And he smokes, he's a chain smoker, I think. And I was going towards the house, and he was going towards the movie theater, and we stopped, and he said, he said, hey, Big Al, we just talked a little bit, and he's got a cigarette in his hand. I looked at him, and he goes, yeah, I know, it's a dirty habit. I said, no, I just can't see you smoking. I keep seeing you as the home alone kid. That was during the Life magazine shoot, and actually that picture, every time I would see Michael for the first time that day or whenever we got on property, we'd all get, hey, Big Al, and he said, how's it going? And I always said, just another day in paradise. And he laughed. He always thought that, I always said that, and he always thought that was funny. Well, the photographer, he's a real famous photographer for Life magazine. I don't know if he's still alive or not, but he told the guy with him, write that down. So if you have the Life magazine thing, you'll see that I've quoted in the very first sentence. But that picture was taken during that photo shoot, and I'm actually glad that it didn't wind up in the magazine, because at that point in my life, I didn't want people going through my trash or the tabloids, trying to, buy stories from me or whatever. So I was glad I didn't become public knowledge, but I'm glad I got the picture anyway. That story. That's a story I just finished writing.
Just wanting to see the hearts your fans are sending up for you.
All right. So yeah, that anaconda. I didn't finish the Life magazine. Yeah. So anyway, I wound up being quoted in the first line of the Life magazine. But that picture, the photographer said, just stand there and act like you're talking to each other. Well, I didn't know what to say when Michael never has, he's never out of words. So he just started talking to me and goes, Bam, we're getting a steam train. And I just really wanted to reach up there and slap him when he said that, because I'm thinking, he doesn't have a clue how much work is in and how much danger is in a steam train. But we ended up getting it, and I was very happy that we did get it, because it's a pretty rare thing to see live steam anymore. And we had all the latest technology, a FireEye computer that monitored everything. And we changed it to propane instead of diesel fire, which is, it's not as good a flame, but it's much cleaner. So anyway, the anaconda. I used to go to the zoo all the time. Every day I'd go to the zoo, because I love animals, and we had some great people working in the zoo that were very knowledgeable. And I became best friends with one of the chimps, AJ. He thought I was his dad or his grandfather or something. But he loved me. But anyway, the anaconda. So I get a call from Mark, and he goes, hey, Mark was in charge of the zoo, and he goes, I need everybody down here. I mean, as many people as I can get. So I go down there and I meet him out in front of the Red Barn. And he goes, these movie people are here. And it was arranged, I think, through Lee Tucker, who was very big in the movie industry, and he took care of Michael's theater. Anyway, these people were going to make the second version of Anaconda, the movie Anaconda. And back in those days, I guess the computer-generated graphics were pretty primitive. And the first movie got a lot of, man, this is horrible. So they wanted to use a live anaconda for the second movie. And Mark tried to explain to them that it's not going to work. You can't train reptiles to do things. You just can't. And apparently they'd gone to several reptile enthusiasts. I guess there's people that have a bunch of reptiles in their backyard, or not like this. And they'd gone to several zoos, and everybody said, if you want to see the nicest anaconda, I didn't know there was such a thing as a nice anaconda, but anyway, the nicest anaconda, you need to go to Michael Jackson's ranch. He's got the anaconda. So they come up there, they look at it in its enclosure, and it's a very nice enclosure, but they want to see it outside. So Mark volunteers a bunch of us to grab a hold of this snake and take it out. He goes, well, there's a hallway down the back that's got these service doors to clean the cages, take the animals out if there's a forest fire or something where we have to evacuate, and to feed them and whatnot. So we all go down this long hallway, and the anaconda, of course, is all the way at the other end. And Mark says, I'm going to go in and get the dangerous end, which is the mouth. And I'm going to come out, and as I come out, I want everybody to just grab as much of this snake as they can. Okay. So I'm waiting last because I'm hoping there's no room for me, because I'm the safety guy, so I'm just trying to observe and be ready to call 911, So sure enough, it gets to the very end of the tail, and I have no part of the snake is anywhere near me. Now what Mark forgot to tell everybody, and I didn't know this at the time, but those big constrictors can secrete a sweat that smells worse than a million skunks. So everybody's like thinking this snake's crapping on them or something, I don't know, but they're all like, and they're all getting ready to let go of this thing, which would have been a disaster. Somebody would have got eaten, I'm sure. But anyway, Mark explains to everybody, and he actually spoke several languages, so he explained it in Spanish, because there was a couple of guys that Spanish was their #1 language. And the whole time, the movie guys are watching this. We get it out front, which was that picture you saw, we get it out front by the fire engine. And we get it. They take some pictures, and we ended up getting it back in the cage. Everything was fine. And before they left, they came up to Mark and they said, "We're not using a real snake." So that was the end. So the next Anaconda movie, I don't know what happened. I've never seen any of them, and probably won't. But that was what that picture was for. Ooh, right there. That's where I met OJ for the first time. Yeah, it might be. I'm not out of stories, but what else do we want to do?
No, just music.
Tell us what it's like out here now. Like, have you been, when was the last time you were out in the vicinity?
Well, I'll deny, except we're on YouTube, so I guess I can't get denied it. But I guess I've been out there. I've done some work for Ron Burkle. I got to tell you, he was friends with Michael, and he still thinks very highly of Michael. And when he bought the place, I had met Ron. Him and his family had been up to the ranch when Michael was alive, so I'd met him before. And super nice guy, billionaire. I mean, I love his story. He said, I was born, I think he said he was born in Pomona, worked at a grocery store at 13 years old, bagging groceries. And at the time he's telling me the story, he owned Kroger's, which owns about half the grocery stores in the country. So I thought, well, that's a pretty successful story right there. But anyway, super nice guy, cared a lot about Michael. And I've been doing some work for him. But I sent him a letter and my resume and explained to him, I don't know what you're doing at the ranch, and I'm not asking you to tell me what you're doing at the ranch. I'm just letting you know that I was there for 15 years, so I'm very familiar with the entire operation. And this is my background is amusement rides. And I thought, first of all, I sent it to his corporate office, and I'm thinking he'll probably never see it. And if he does, I'll never get it. And within a week, I got the nicest email the only email I ever got from a billionaire, but it was super nice. He was, "Dang, Al, I remember you. You were so nice to me and my family. And Michael would call you at the last minute, and you'd take care of us, and blah, 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 blah." So anyway, so I've been out there a few times, and he's put about 10 rides out there, and he was interested in a train, and I said, well, I know the estate still has both trains, so now both of Michael's original trains are back there. The steam train doesn't operate because when I shut it down, the last time I shut it down, I thought I was coming to work the next day. And then they gave us all, the severance package and signed this letter and took us to the front gate and never went back. So it was like 3/4 full of water, and leaving a steam train full of water for an extended period of time was the worst thing you can do. So the boiler's completely destroyed. But the small train, it was stored at a friend of mine's house, and when I told him it was going back up there, he pressure cleaned it and got it all running good and everything, and got it sorted. So those are back up there. And he's done some things like Michael. He's done some charity events. Nobody knows about it because he's being very secretive. But the property he's keeping it for his son and his grandkids, which is good because that means it'll be taken care of. And I can tell you this: he's done everything first class and right. So, and I know that Prince is, and I think Johnny would talk about it someday, maybe doing some type of fan event up there, and so we can all just cross our fingers and hope. The first time I went up there to work for John, I actually stayed. I went up the night. I was working in Costa Mesa at the Orange County Fair. I drove up Sunday night, got a room in Buellton, and the next day I almost got my car and went back, and I was going to call and tell him I can't. I didn't want to drive through those gates without Michael. There's some funny stories there. So anyway, I made it through the front gates, and I shared this story with Prince after not seeing him for 13 years or whatever it was. Him and I were talking about Neverland. He says, you can feel my dad's presence up there. I go, yeah. I said, I got to tell you a story. I said, I was up there doing an inspection of all the rides, and it was like 5 o'clock at night, and all the employees are gone. It's just Ron and his family, his son John and his kids. And I'm walking the railroad tracks, and the train barn is about a half a mile down. It's past the zoo. It's all the way at the north end of the ranch. So I'm walking the railroad tracks because they got some issues they need to do. You know, I'm taking pictures and writing notes about things I want them to do the railroad track. And I get all the way to the back, and I'm in the train barn, and I had to stop there and just go. You know, this was, you know, I spent a lot of time down there working on the train, and we stored stuff down there. Anyway, so I'm just kind of like looking around. I've been down there about 5 to 10 minutes. So I started inspecting the locomotive, and then it had 3 cars. And I've been down there, now I've been down there probably 20 minutes, maybe 25 minutes. And all of a sudden, the music, we have music everywhere. But I've been there 25 minutes, so I'm thinking if the CD was on repeat, I would have heard it before now. All of a sudden, the CD starts playing. I thought, that's weird. And I'm looking around thinking, man, what's going on? Then I realized not only did the CD start playing, it's the CD that was in there that Brad Sundberg made at Michael's request. It had certain songs on it. And it was in there 13 years ago when we took that train and put it in storage. And then I was convinced that Mr. Jackson was watching me. So that was a hair-raising moment.
Good story, Big Al.
I still can't tell that story. You'll have to go. I'm sure you can find the video. I'll try to tell it. I'll tell a little bit of it. So I was at the back of the theater with Michael Bush talking about a Santa Claus suit, and some of the fans knew that because I told them, I said, after Michael passed away, there wasn't a single day that went by I didn't think about his kids and how rotten it was that they're growing up without a dad, and he doesn't get to see them grow up. And but I had no contact with them. So some of the fans said, Michael, Prince was down there and he signed an autograph. So I went down there and I waited, just like his dad. He was very gracious. He would talk to anybody and sign anything and take pictures. I mean, I waited till everybody was done and I walked up to him. And of course he didn't, I recognized him because I've seen him, you know, in social media or whatever, but he didn't recognize me because he was like, you know, 11 or 12 years old last time he saw me. And I said, I just want to introduce myself. I said, I worked with your dad in Neverland for about 15 years. And he kind of like, he was pretty excited about that. He goes, oh, really? And then when I said, my name's Big Al,
Breathe.
he grabbed me and we hugged for quite a while. And like his dad, when he hugs you, you know you've been hugged. So anyway. That meant a lot to me because I really, you know, when Michael died, I thought, I'll never see any of this. We're all kind of family. I was telling Matt earlier, even though Matt and I, this is the first time we really officially met, people that were in that Michael Jackson world and really got to know Michael, it's kind of like Vietnam veterans. I mean, they just have this instant bond, whether you knew the guy or not. It's like when I met Kenny Ortega. I'd never met him before. And I went to shake his hand when I told him I worked for Michael in Neverland for 15 years. He shook my hand for about 20 minutes. And he just like wouldn't stop. He was just all excited about Neverland. I go, so we kind of have this, you know, instant bond, I guess you'd say. But anyway, it meant a lot to me. And then we actually, you know, had quite a few conversations over the next few days. And I think in that picture I was wearing, I have an Indian motorcycle, and he, of course, rides a Harley. So I think it was the next day when I had the Indian motorcycle shirt on. We're out in front of the Mandalay Bay Theater, and we were just, I don't know what we were talking about. We were just talking, just casual talk, and he goes, "We do have a problem." I'm thinking, you know, this is the second time I've seen him in the last 13 or 14 years, and we have a problem. And he goes, he points to my shirt. He goes, "Indian." So again, I was very, very quick with an answer. I said, "Yeah." I said, I had my last 2 bikes were Harleys, but then I graduated to Indian. So I haven't been invited on a ride with him yet, but Okay. The pool. We could go on. We could go
Yeah,
on.
well, as soon as they kick us out, it's all right.
Okay. So the pool. I gotta think. This is a Miko Brando story. I'm sure all of you know Miko Brando. I know Betsy does. Where's Betsy? Did she leave already? I was gonna tell the story. So we're having a big VIP event, and I don't remember what it was for, but Miko was there, and we're standing out by the pool, and we're talking about the pool. It's a hot day, and I said, the only bad part about working for Mr. Jackson in Neverland is I can't ever enjoy that pool. I said, now you're all going to hate me when I finish this story, but I said, Miko couldn't believe it. He goes, I'm never going to do a favor for you again. I said, yeah, the only way I can enjoy that pool now is if I had to jump in and save somebody from drowning. Now, Miko's got, it looks like a nice expensive watch on. He's got a, $6 Cuban cigar in his mouth. He's got a drink in his hand, and he backs up and jumps in the pool with everything, cigar, drink, everything. Just jumps in the pool and he's like, help, I'm drowning. I thought, man, this guy's a friend for life, but he's going to be mad because I'm not going to save him because he's in the chow and all I got to do is stand up in the water, come up here. But anyway. So I never got to enjoy the pool, but I had my opportunity. But I said, and then Michael was on property, and all these guests were going to leave, and I had to stay there the rest of the night. And the only thing I had to change into was my coveralls for firing up the steam train. And how we doing on time? We're okay? Oh, okay. Yeah, get some cake while you're here. I'm sure you're entitled to a dinner break. And so. No, never did. That's Paul from Australia, and me. That was my Halloween costume was, if you couldn't tell from that, I was one of the Blues Brothers. I even went so far as to put Jake Blues on my knuckles here for the tattoo that he had in the movie. That's a shirt from the history tour, a cruise shirt. Not too many of those floating around. I don't have a lot of souvenirs because I never thought things were going to ever end out there. I never dreamt that I'd outlive Michael, and I thought I'd be there until the day I died. But so I didn't really collect anything. I do have an autographed picture. I actually have an autographed program from the Ghost video that when they showed it in cons, I think that's where it was shown the first time. But Madison Square Garden. This guy on the end right here, he was part of I think it was MTV contest. They got to come, the three finalists got to come spend the weekend at the ranch, and Michael was there, and they each got to bring a guest, or maybe it was just those two. Anyway, this guy, every time we were doing shoot, they were shooting like B-roll stuff for leading into this, whenever they were going to play this video. This guy would screw it up, and we had to tune in to MTV, tune in and win. I think that's all we had to say, or all they had to say. And because of that guy, they had to do it about 30 times. And by the end of the weekend, everybody was like, this guy is such a goof. Well, he brought his girlfriend, and he's at dinner. Now this is a sad story. He's at dinner with the MTV producer, the other finalist, the other guest, and Michael Jackson. And he proposes to his girlfriend. And she says no. I said, you gotta put that guy on suicide watch. He'll never get another, who gets an opportunity to propose at Neverland, So I felt bad for the guy, although he was a goof, but anyway. Yeah, there's that anaconda. That's the Neverland bumper cars, which if anybody lives anywhere close or happens to be going through Sacramento, the Neverland bumper cars is right now set up supposedly permanently, although the state wants to get rid of it, and I'm trying to talk Ron Burke into buying it back. But It's at the Cattle Expo of the State Fairgrounds. And the only time it's open is during the State Fair, which is in July, I guess. Which is a great time to be in Sacramento. It's 140 degrees. But anyway, if you're ever in Sacramento during the State Fair, stop by and you'll see the bumper cars. I did a couple of videos from, I actually did the safety inspection of all the amusement rides at the fair. That's what I do for a living now, and that's actually what I was doing for a living before I went to work at Neverland. My background is, I've been doing inspections or maintenance on amusement rides for 50 years. And when they bought the ranch, somebody at the ranch was smart enough to go, hey, we don't know anything about amusement rides, so they hired us to come in and try and help them a little bit. Madison Square Garden. / So that swing ride you just saw, a friend of mine owns it. Actually, his grandfather owned it and sold it to us. And he said, if you ever sell this ride, I get first dibs. So he actually bought it back, and it's on his carnival. And I'm really hoping there's a lot more to this than anybody knows. But I really want to do another event like this next year, but I want it to be big. And it's probably going to have to be later in the year, because one of the things I want to do is Davey will bring that ride to our event, so we can actually have the Neverland Wave Swinger at our event. But he won't do it during one of his big fairs, unless I want to pay him what it could make it a fair, and I'm not going to tell you how much that is. So I'm probably going to have to adjust around his schedule, because I really want that to be part of it. To me, I don't know why. First of all my 50 years in the amusement ride business, the Wave Swinger, which is built in Germany by Zaire, it's always been not to ride, just to look at it. It's a beautiful, it's very well built. Underneath all that facade, it's an incredibly well built ride, and I just love it. I've always liked the Wave Swinger, and the first time we had the Wave Swinger at the ranch, I rented it. I didn't rent it, Michael rented it, but I negotiated the deal. And I said, I know when he sees this, he's going to want to keep it. Although at that time it wasn't for sale, but we rented it for 2 months in the wintertime. And sure enough, they come down. We just finished setting it up. It's dark. It's like 8 o'clock at night. It's dark up there. It's wintertime. And we're all kind of dirty and sweaty from setting up this carnival ride. And as soon as the first time we test run it, here they come. There's 2 golf cart loads of people, including Michael, and they're all in their pajamas. You can big out, we ride. And I said, well, yeah. I said, we're all kind of dirty. Who cares? Just push the start button. So they got on it, and they rode it 2 or 3 times. And Larry Davis, who was the owner, he's passed away since then, and his wife, who had this little tiny, I can't remember what it is, the same kind of dog that Elizabeth the other had. But anyway, she's holding this dog, and I really wanted to introduce Michael to them, because they really treated me right on this rental deal, and or treated Michael right. And so he rides the ride a couple times, and he gets off, and I met him over at the ride. Larry and Joanne were standing about 50 feet away. And I asked him, I said, Michael, just take a second. Is it okay if I introduce you to the guy that owns this ride? And he said, all he's saying is, can we keep it? Can we keep it? Can we keep it? I said, well, we can't keep it right now, but maybe next year at this time we might be able to keep it. I said, but can I? And he said, oh, yeah. So I'm thinking, this is, first of all, she's holding the dog, and they're going to, I'm like, this is going to take a second. He'll be gracious like he is. And he stood there and talked to him. I don't know what he talked about, because I walked away. I just introduced him, thinking that he was going to turn around and tell me we're going to go ride the Sea Dragon guys. He stood there and talked to him for like 15 minutes. And Joanne, I'm not saying Joanne's a snooty person, but I just thought she's the kind of person that, I mean, she's, her and her husband played golf with every president. They live in Palm Springs. They know all kinds of people. She's just not going to be that impressed with Michael. And she was like blown away. She goes, he is the most gracious person I've ever met. And she was not a Michael Jackson. I'm not saying she didn't like him, but I mean, she was not a Michael Jackson by any means. But anyway, and then we ended up buying the ride, so everybody was happy after that. That's the bridge that Michael and Ryan White walked across. I can't tell you too much about this story, but I did some work in Florida, and I became friends with Ryan's family because they'd come to Neverland quite a few times. Even after he passed away, they'd been there a few times. And Ron, his stepdad, was, I mean, him and I were like, we were just instant buddies, same music, same humor and everything. And, but anyway, I really kind of lost contact with him. Every once in a while, Ron would say something on Facebook or whatever. But I was doing some work in Florida just earlier this year. I was inspecting a train at the Central Florida Zoo, actually. And I got a hold of Jeannie White, because she lives down there in that area. And I went over there and spent the day, and it was incredible. I mean, it was like again, like Matt and I, we both worked for Michael. I mean, although I knew Jeannie quite well. I mean, we just, and to talk about her son, and some of the stories she told about some of the different celebrities and Michael and this and that, it was a great, and we both had a great time. We laughed and cried and all that. Then she brings out a suitcase that was full of all of Ryan's favorite stuff, including the jacket that her picture, her favorite picture of Michael, and the jacket that Mike bought him and everything. So anyway, I was glad I got to meet up with her again and spend some time. Super nice family. Hey, let's goodbye for now. That always impressed me. Every time I go home from work, 15 years, every time I go back, I go, I gotta think of everything. I mean, you could have just said, whatever, exit this way. You wanted people to leave there with the subconsciously thinking that they're gonna come back. Goodbye for now. It wasn't goodbye, it was goodbye for now. So he wanted everybody, when they left there, he wanted them to, at least have the feeling that they were coming back. That's the movie theater. Yeah, we've gone through it. All right, anything else? Anybody, any questions about Neverland?
Did you do the Pop Rocks story?
No.
That's my favorite.
Okay, just because it's your favorite. So as I told you before, almost every day I would go to the zoo because I like animals, and like I said, we had a great crew down there that was it was like educational. It's like watching educational TV when you're right there in the zoo. Well, over the years, like I said, AJ the chimp, just he thought I was like related to him. I mean, I was his best friend, and I could drive my golf cart. And he could see me from way off, and he just started what they call barking. It's the noise that chimps make, and he was. And I'd go up there. I remember one time I'd been gone for a week. I took a vacation, which I'd never done before that in my life. But I came back and I was sunburned. And they groom themselves. And he's like looking at my forehead because my head. So I put it up there and he's like touching this. But we had this thing. He liked Pop Rocks. I don't know if anybody knows what Pop Rocks are. I don't know if you can still get them, but it's like it comes in a pouch like I don't know, looks like a chewing tobacco pouch almost. And it's candy. They got red, green. I don't know what else. We had red, green there, and they're little tiny, like rocks. And you put them in your mouth, and they start popping in your mouth, and they turn into this like whatever foam or whatever. And it's just candy. Well, AJ would stick his lip through the cage, and first I played a joke on him, or not a joke, but it was kind of a routine we had. I'd have him in my pocket, and I'd say, I got something in my pocket, and he'd start, doing all that stuff and jumping around, and then he'd stick his lip through and pour the Pop Rocks in there. So one day, I get a call from the guy in the zoo, and he says, again, we had some movie people there. These people were working on, I think the second or third, or one of the installments of Planet of the Apes, and they were trying to get noises, ape noises. And their equipment is so sensitive. When they go to a zoo, they pick up all this other, people and activity and stuff. So again, they through Lee Tucker or whoever, they made arrangements to come up there. And I didn't know this was going on at the time, but apparently they'd been down there for a while, and they got AJ to bark and do all these things. And they're like, we need more. And he goes, well, I got to call this other guy. I gotta call Big Al. He'll come down here and this. I said, he said, get your microphone ready because this guy's gonna go ape shit. So I tried, he says, park your golf cart over by the reptile barn and walk up here so there's no extra noise from walk. And as soon as I get on the railroad tracks and start walking around that corner, he started, and they're recording and recording. And I get up there and we do the pop rocks thing, and they're recording. And anyway, this thing goes on for like 20 or 30 minutes. Well, now he's calmed down, he's done. And we go, we need more. And I said, well, right now, I said, the excitement's all over, I said, pretty much it's over. He goes, we need more. I said, well, I can get him to bark a little bit more, but it involves me barking at him first. So they go, okay. So, and I thought they didn't want this extra noise. Well, apparently, they were fine with it because it got to the point where they were recording him, then they were recording me, and they were recording him, and they were recording me. So am I going to be in the next Planet of the Apes movies? Am I going to get a credit for this? So anyway, I got AJ to bark a bunch more. That was during a Life magazine shoot too, so with that. Okay, last story. Elizabeth Taylor. There was a magazine called, I think they only did 2 issues, and that went under. It was an entertainment magazine. Talk? Was it Talk? Anyway, I think it was the premiere issue was going to be with Elizabeth Taylor, and they were going to do it at the ranch. And we didn't have any guests that day, but they said a helicopter was coming in with Elizabeth Taylor. Well, her and Michael aren't going to come down and ride rides, I don't think. So I figured it'd be an easy day for me. Well, then I get a phone call, or I get told to go to a phone. I answered it, and it was Michael. He goes, Big Al. He goes, Elizabeth Taylor is coming. And as soon as she lands, I want you to meet her at the helicopter and stay with her all day. And anything she wants, make sure it happens, or if she wants to get away from these photographers or whatever, just hang out in the background. And so I thought, well, it was not part of my normal, job description, I guess you'd say, although I didn't really have a job description, I just did whatever I had to do. But, so I thought, that's cool, I'll hang out. So I go and meet her at the helicopter, and just getting her out of the helicopter, she gives me her whole life history of medical procedures and whatnot. And she was like instantly my friend. And so anyway, so I hang out with her, and the photographers take some pictures, and at one point we're inside, I was going to show you inside the movie theater. I'm sure it'll come up here in a minute. That's the outside. So we're inside the movie theater, and they have Elizabeth Taylor down in front where the stage is, and they got these big fancy lights, and the rest of the theater is fairly dark. And I'm standing way at the back. I said, I'm going to stay all the way until she signals me or whatever. I'm standing back there, and I don't know what, I was just daydreaming or thinking of something. I wasn't paying attention because the photographer was already on my nerves. I would have smacked him already. But, so I'm just I guess I'm daydreaming or whatever, and all of a sudden I realize that Liz has been yelling, Big Al, Big Al, Big Al. And I'm like, somebody calling, is my alarm going off? Somebody calling me? She goes, Big Al. I go, oh. I'm like, yes. And she goes, and she points to the back wall. And the way they had the lights situated, I don't know how I was in the picture, but anyway, there was this 30-foot shadow of me, a profile of me on the back wall. And this will test everybody's age in here. She goes, you look like Alfred Hitchcock. So anyway, that was my Elizabeth, and she was a sweetheart, and she loved Michael dearly. Michael loved her. Actually, I was getting ready to take her back to the house, and I got her in the golf cart, and now the photographers put all his stuff away, and all of a sudden he sees us in the golf cart, and his artistic mind was running, I guess, and he thought that'd make a great picture. So he yells at one of the guys, give him a camera, and he's running backwards in front of us. And I looked at Elizabeth Taylor, she looked at me, and she goes, this guy's a kook. I said, you want me to run over him? And she said, yeah. So I didn't run over him, but I thought it was kind of a funny little moment to hear her give me orders to run over this guy. Anyway, Talk Magazine, and her picture's on the front. I don't know if you can, I'm sure, well, they only survived two issues, and then they went under, but. There's the Life magazine. Somewhere in my storage box, I have one of those that's signed by Michael. If I was home more, I would probably have a room dedicated to this and have it up on display so I could send pictures to you and show you. Oh yeah, I'm sure that I don't know if anybody from France is watching, but I had the France flag. I had to get this because I'm sure all you people know that there's a couple of collectors over there, and I met two of them at Kingvention, and I'm sure there's other people like this. I mean, they would fill this entire room with stuff. It's unbelievable. The one guy, Hector, and who's the other? Bryce? No. And then they're down there, and this Hector guy went over and he entered. There's some kid over there that wasn't even alive when Michael died, I don't think. Malo. And he, same thing. He's a collection of Michael stuff would fill this entire room. It's amazing. And it's cool to see that. I'm hoping I get over there sometime to see their collection. All right. Anything else about Neverland? We got to wrap this up. We got to go.
Yeah, we got about 20 minutes. Let's play some music and.
Hey.
No, we don't want to go. Keep talking.
I'll tell you my whole entire book, then you won't have to buy a copy of it.
Oh, you got to sign it though.
Okay. Yeah, I have a section in there for celebrities, but I'm going to run that by an attorney to find out if I can tell any of those stories. So, I know Mac would let me tell his story, I'm sure. Anyway.
Bring them on over.
Yeah. All right, I'm done. I'll play some music out here until we have to get that.
Thank you, Big Al. Good job, man.
I'm ready for a big glass of red wine. Let me just play that at concert or?
Play like Enjoy Yourself.
Is that on your?
They want to play the video, but there's not enough time now.
I don't think I have it on. I think you had to.
It's crystals. I don't know why they don't see it. Crystal, for some reason it's not on here. I don't know where it went.
Did you send it to me and you didn't send it to me yesterday?
Here's another problem.
Best of joy.
My phone went dead.
Brace yourself. Michael Jackson, the movie.
Hey man, you almost had me over crying. Don't do that. Don't do that. But yeah, you know something? Like he was saying, John, it came full circle.
Yeah.
Because I didn't know what was going on up at the house, up in Neverland. And they had called me and said, Porchak, come to the front gate. They opened the gate.
Choose your battles.
Ooh. They opened the front gate. So then, looking inside, I was like, oh.
Michael Jackson is the most successful artist to ever done. The man of the
that culture has not diminished one bit. On his birthday, best wishes from your song. With a life.
Hold on, you guys. It's too loud in here. Hey, how are you, dear? I'm still on live. I'll see you when I get up.
Inspire and entertain a lifetime performer. Giving himself to the public for almost his entire life and for being the soundtrack of many generations.
You guys wrap it up?
He was a wonderful man,
Okay, thank
kind and caring person, and we were lucky to have him. I can go.
Thanks.
Las Vegas. Happy birthday, Michael. We miss you.
That's where you guys are going. Oh, just even the full ones, just put them in here. Where'd you do the little? Well, that's gonna make it really heavy. Where did these
Happy birthday, Michael, from Laura Crawford in North Wales.
Good job.
You guys, it's not working. Let me walk outside.